How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. All right, starting things off with the US dollar index. And remember, if you want this call report spreadsheet, it is available lifetime access on Patreon. Links in the description down below. So this week, the banks got rid of 3,419 long positions, and they also got rid of 2,200 short positions. Now, if you look at the daily chart here, you can clearly see we are reacting off of this daily area of demand that I'm pretty sure I pointed this out last week. So that's why we're seeing the US dollar have a little bit of an up move here too. And if you guys want to take a look also at this weekly chart, I have also pointed out this area that's not quite technically demand, but if you draw it out like this, you can see we're kind of reacting off of that area right now. So I also believe that is why we are seeing a little bit of an up move on the US dollar. If you look at the 4-hour chart, we had a very clean 4-hour downtrend here. You definitely could have been day trading to the short side on lower time frames. That would have been completely fine. But as you see now, we have removed this downward trend line, leaving us with 4-hour demand down below. So I think we're starting to see signs that we could see the 4-hour start to push up. And I always like to ask myself, why is this happening? And like I said, I think it's happening because we're reacting off of a weekly buying area and also this daily area of demand. So right now, I think it's a decent time to be buying US dollar pairs. And as soon as price, let's say you get involved in a US dollar pair to the long side and price pushes up to here, well, I think that would be a good time to potentially look to take profits off your US dollar long position. So hopefully all of this makes sense on the US dollar index. All right, on to EURUSD. The past week, the banks got rid of 6,300 long positions, and they also got rid of 9,122 short positions. Now, it's very important to always look at the bigger picture. Yes, we have a weekly downtrend. Overall, daily trend is down, but we have lost momentum with the removal of this area of supply. So we've clearly lost momentum on the daily chart, but overall, we want to be trading, with this weekly downtrend, even though we are reacting off weekly demand. So the only real setup I see here is if you come to a 4-hour chart, clearly this chart is proving to be very messy. We're kind of just going in this range right here, and I don't usually like to trade in ranges, but I know people are probably trying to short this and go long. So to be very clear, what I would be doing is trading with the weekly downtrend. So I would only be looking for shorts. Just like this supply zone worked beautifully, we're now left with this supply zone on the 4-hour chart. So what you could do is set an alert here and wait for confirmation when price gets down, gets into this supply zone on a 15-minute chart. And if you don't know what confirmation trading is, or if you need help with confirmation trading, check out the Tier 2 Patreon or YouTube membership. Links are in the description down below. As you can see, this is everything that is included in the Tier 2 membership, as well as what I just recently added is the confirmation trading video lessons. I think are very, very useful. So definitely check that out. Links are in the description down below. We'd be happy to see you guys in the private live streams on every Sunday as well. So that's all I'm seeing here on the EURUSD. Obviously, we just want to continue to trade with the overall downtrend. All right, looking at XAUUSD gold forecast. The past week, the banks added 467 longs and they got rid of 31,000 short positions. Now, with gold, we're going to start things off on the weekly chart here. As you can see, I have weekly supply right here. So I think I talked about this last week, but if price comes up to this weekly supply, I think that's a very decent area to start to look for a 4-hour confirmation trade to the downside. So after we look at the weekly chart, I like to come down to the daily chart. And you can see we're clearly reacting off of this daily downward trend line right here. And there's also daily supply right here as well. Now, you could technically look for a 1-hour confirmation short in here, but I think, it's actually safer to just wait for that weekly supply to be contacted first and then look for short positions. Now, if you come to a 4-hour chart, what the confirmation that you're looking for to the short side is going to look like is the removal of this downward trend line. Technically, yes, we have had confirmation because this demand has been taken out, leaving us with this supply. So this is technically confirmation, but I'm not a fan of this confirmation at all. But that doesn't mean you can't look for a 15-minute confirmation inside of this 4-hour confirmation. I know this might sound very confusing, but believe me, it does make sense if you understand how confirmation trading works. So what I would actually prefer is for a supply zone right here to happen by removing the downward trend line, and then that would be way better confirmation. So there's nothing wrong with taking an aggressive entry here. I just think we will continue to see a push up to that weekly area of supply And maybe now people will be shorting, but then eventually they might get stopped out and push up to this weekly supply where it's way better to get involved short. So, it's not really a right or wrong thing. I personally like to trade more conservatively, so I would be waiting for this weekly supply to be hit and then looking for shorts. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with taking the more aggressive route and looking for 15-minute confirmation coming off of that 4-hour supply zone that is also confirmation. All right, on to USDJPY forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 12,100 longs, and they also added 6,621 short positions. Now, first, I want to show you guys the overall weekly trend. It is very much up with weekly demand right here. So remember that as we go through this analysis. So now we go down to the daily chart, and I talked about this last week. We have lost momentum on the daily uptrend, but that's okay. So now, an aggressive entry would be to look for a 1-hour confirmation coming off of that daily supply zone. I personally will not be doing that based on the overall weekly uptrend that we have. This is a very aggressive short right here. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking for 1-hour confirmation short, but look to take profits, relatively early, maybe at 1-to-1, 2-to-1 if that, based on the weekly uptrend. Now, as far as longs go, to continue to trade with that weekly uptrend, I actually don't recommend getting in long right now. What I need to see before getting in long is this supply zone to be taken out. This supply zone is a little less important. This is the significant one. So for me to be very clear, for me to get in long, I would need to see this removed first. And if we're left with demand right here, let's say this happens, and then we pull back to that daily demand, that would be a great area to look for a confirmation trade to the upside. So to summarize it again, I'm just waiting for this daily trend to continue up before getting in long. And why am I doing that? Well, here's a little lesson or tip, whatever you want to call it. So in order for a weekly trend to change, or for a weekly chart to pull back to weekly demand, we must have daily demand and the daily trend change to a downtrend to pull into this weekly area of demand. So that's why I'm hesitant to just hop in long, because it's very possible we're just going to get a pullback to this weekly demand and then move up. That is why I need to see evidence that this daily supply is not going to do something like this, and then move down to the weekly demand and then move up. So that's why I'm revolving my whole trade on USDJPY around this daily supply zone. If this doesn't make sense, leave me a comment down below and I will happily try to clear things up. But hopefully I did a good job of trying to explain exactly why I'm revolving my trade on USD yen around that daily supply. All right, looking at GBPUSD forecast. And really quick, let me know in the comments down below what pairs you are trading this week. I'd be very interested to see what markets you think are going to move in a certain direction. So certainly leave me a comment down below. I will respond to every single comment. And as far as the call report goes for this week on GBPUSD, the banks got rid of 5,300 longs and they also got rid of 2,800 short positions. Now, before we get into the pound, just want to show you guys the overall picture. We have a weekly downtrend. We also have a daily downtrend as well, but as you can see here, we're kind of testing that daily downtrend as I am speaking right now. So basically, I want to be trading with this weekly downtrend. So the only real setup I see is this 4-hour area of supply right here. Now, it's not an amazing supply zone. It's definitely decent. It did remove the upward trend line, and it did remove this demand that has been proven to be demand twice now. So as far as a trading setup goes, if you like to trade the 50-minute or the 5-minute, you could definitely look for confirmation coming off of this 4-hour supply zone right here. That's pretty much all I see here on the pound. I know some people are probably going to want to get in long, and that's fine. I definitely understand. I do think it's very possible, looking at the daily chart, that we could see the pound retrace all the way back up to here and then push down. And I'm sure people are going to want to be trading along the way there. But as far as longs goes, I won't be looking for longs, but if you are looking for longs, I think what you need to do is revolve your long trade around this 4-hour area of supply. So if you don't want to get in short, just wait for this supply zone. Maybe price comes up, it removes this supply zone, leaving us with 4-hour demand, and then you could look for a long trade in there. I think that would be completely fine, or at least wait for the 4-hour uptrend to continue, which would be the removal of this high. Then we have a 4-hour uptrend. So I would basically wait for that for longs, but I definitely think it's higher odds to look for shorts to continue to trade, with this overall weekly downtrend on GBPUSD. All right, on to USDCAD. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,580 long positions, and they also added 1,928 short positions. Now the thing with this pair is it's been very confusing and very, very choppy and sloppy, whatever you want to call it. So what I like to do in this situation is just look at the overall trend. Clearly it is up on the weekly chart, so I'd rather be looking for longs rather than shorts, especially when we look at the dollar index, the DXY. So as far as that goes for longs on USDCAD, if you come over to a 4-hour chart, you can clearly see we had, well, as you can see here, we had 4-hour upward momentum, and that changed by this supply zone reacting, and then we clearly had 4-hour momentum to the downside. Now we just broke that momentum. We don't have a 4-hour downtrend, but what we do have is a decent little 4-hour zone right here. I definitely do not recommend set and forget trading to the long side on this supply zone, but what you could demand zone. But what you could definitely do, since we want to get in long and trade with the weekly uptrend and be buying the US dollar, in my opinion, you could look for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of this demand zone at about 1.28876. That is one option. The second option, since this 4-hour supply zone has proven its reliability and it's proven that it is supply by getting a huge move down, and not only that, we reacted off of it again perfectly before the fact. This is clearly a significant 4-hour supply zone. So you can either wait for this demand zone to be hit and look for confirmation, or if we get something like this, leaving us with 4-hour demand, you could definitely look for confirmation coming off of that demand zone. And remember, I will have that demand zone for the YouTube and Patreon members, and you can get these demand zones for only $5 CAD per month. I hate to bring it up again. Somebody complained last time because I had a little 30-second ad, but it's very helpful. You can catch zones like this all the time. So I will have the zone that removes this zone for the members if that does take place. But if that doesn't, there's a demand zone down here we can also look to get involved in. All right, AUD US dollar forecast. The past week, the banks added 811 longs and they added 9,376 short positions. Now remember, we do have a weekly downtrend here on the Aussie dollar. So you guessed it, I'd rather be looking for shorts rather than longs. So what I'm seeing here, if you come to a daily chart, the most conservative option to look for shorts is, since we lost momentum on this daily downtrend, what broke momentum? Well, this demand zone broke momentum. So it's very clear to me, this demand zone needs to be broken before we get in short. And when that happens, I will have the zone for the members, and that you can use that zone to look for confirmation trades to the downside. So that's the more conservative short entry. Now, if you come to a 4-hour chart, there is more aggressive setups here. If you want, you could definitely look for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of this supply zone, but it's just a little more aggressive. As far as longs go, I don't recommend getting in long, but it's all obviously anything is possible in the currency markets. So I would not be getting in long until we can get this supply zone removed. Any demand zone down here would be the zone you'd look for confirmation inside of. So that's pretty much all I see here on the Aussie dollar. I want to be trading with the weekly downtrend because it is higher odds no matter what. So I would revolve it around this 4-hour supply zone to be more aggressive. But like I said, I would much rather wait for this daily demand zone to be removed, proving to me that this daily demand zone isn't going to hold and push price up, but rather that it would break and show weakness. And that weakness would align with this weekly downtrend. So hopefully this makes sense on the Aussie dollar. As you guys know, I like to take the more conservative route, and that is why I'm suggesting we maybe wait for that daily demand zone to be removed first, but there's nothing wrong with trying to get an aggressive entry coming off of 4-hour supply. All right, second last pair, we have USDCHF, the Swiss franc forecast. Past week, the banks added 2,041 longs, and they also added 32 short positions. Now, this is a very confusing chart. Here's why. We technically have a weekly uptrend overall, but as you can see here, we're kind of just going sideways, so it's very confusing. Now, if you look at a daily chart, we clearly have a daily downtrend here, so it's very confusing, as you can see, and obviously I'd rather be buying the US dollar based on the DXY. So when I see a daily downtrend here, I am simply just staying away from the Swiss franc right now. I am personally not trading it. The only time I'll be interested in trading it is if we can pull back to this weekly demand, and then I will probably look for a long position coming off of that weekly demand. Now, until that happens, if you want to short the US dollar on this pair, I think it's fine, because obviously it revolves around the Swiss franc as well. And, it could be the Swiss franc is just, very strong or whatever. So as far as trades go, I really don't see anything. Technically, we have a 4-hour downtrend here, but it's just all over the map, and I don't even see any quality setups. So as far as I'm concerned here on the USD Swiss, I wouldn't trade it. I'm not even really going to point out any daily, or I'm not even going to point out any supply or demand zones, because I just don't think it's a high odds situation to be trading this long or short right now. So that's why I'm going to be completely honest with you guys and basically just skip this pair, and hopefully you guys can appreciate that as well. So that's why I'm not saying any zones, because I just, like I said, it's just not high odds to be trading this one. It's very confusing, and I've been trading for a while, and I personally I know when it's time to be trading a pair and when it's not, and from my experience right now, it is just not the time to be trading USD Swiss. I think many of the other pairs are offering much better higher odds situations. All right, we have crude oil here. The past week, the banks got rid of 6,600 longs, and they also got rid of 1,100 short positions. Now, in last week's forecast, I talked about this support and resistance area right here. Not support and resistance, but support area. I drew this purple box as support, a place where people were buying multiple times, and I talked about how I think it's very possible we see another fake out. And as you can see here, we had a fake out liquidity hunt right here on oil, and then price push back up. So I definitely guarantee you that a lot of retail traders like us were stopped out right here. Now, I think we're seeing a significant move down. Obviously, this was a fake out because this turned into just a wick, where this we have significant price action moving down lower. So what I think is going to happen here in oil, I think this is very interesting. I think that if I'm putting myself in the mind of a support and resistance trader, we just broke support, and now we technically they want to be shorting the resistance to the downside, and I think it will work for a bit. I think we could see a move off this supply zone if price pushes up, but the problem is if you look at a weekly chart here, you can see this weekly area of demand right here. I personally believe we will see a reaction off this demand to the upside. It's very possible too we push a little bit lower to this one and then move up, but ultimately I think it's fine to be looking for longs in oil in this area, even in between. So let me just redraw this. I think it's fine to be looking for oil longs in this general area right here. Sorry, let me just rephrase that, in this area right here. Don't mind the space there, but I think it's fine to be looking for longs in oil down there. If you want to look for shorts, I just don't recommend it. We've had such a significant pullback. I do believe oil will be going higher, and that's why I don't really recommend getting in short. Like I said, I think we could see a reaction off this daily supply, but that doesn't mean we should just be shorting, right? So if you do get in short, it's going to have to be on a lower time frame, and look to take profits relatively early based on the weekly demand being in control on oil very soon, hopefully. And as far as confirmation to the long side goes, you have a lot of easy confirmation setups here in oil. We have a 4-hour supply zone reacted once. We have a 4-hour supply zone up here that reacted twice. So if any of these zones are removed, leaving us with 4-hour demand, that could be your trading setup. If that gets removed up here, leaving us with demand, that could be your trading setup. So I think oil is looking very decent for longs. We just have to be a little bit more patient and wait for the full fake out to take place to the downside before we hop in long. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there, and hope to see you in the next video.